Imagine waking up tomorrow morning, walking into the bathroom, and realizing something terrifying. There is no toilet paper. Not behind a door, not in the cupboard, not in the shop, not anywhere. Now stop for a moment and think. What would you do? Most people laugh at this question until they realize something uncomfortable. For most of human history, toilet paper did not exist. Not for hundreds of years, not for thousands. For tens of thousands of years, every human who ever lived faced this problem daily. And the way they solved it might surprise you. Before we continue, if you enjoy discovering the hidden history of everyday things and want to improve your English through cinematic storytelling, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because this story is stranger than fiction. Long before bathrooms, plumbing, and privacy, humans lived close to nature. Very close. Daily life happened outdoors, behind trees, near rivers, in open fields. And what happened next was simply part of survival. In the ancient world, cleanliness was not about comfort, it was about avoiding sickness, about not attracting insects, about not angering the gods. And yet, without modern knowledge of bacteria, people relied only on experience, trial, error, and habit. Early humans quickly learned one thing. Doing nothing was not an option. It caused rashes, infections, disease, and terrible discomfort. So they used what was around them. Nature became their bathroom cabinet. Leaves were the first solution. Large leaves, soft leaves, leaves that wouldn't scratch or cut. People memorized which plants were safe and which ones caused burning pain. A mistake here was unforgettable. But leaves weren't always available. In cold regions, trees lost them. In dry areas, plants were scarce. So humans adapted again. They used grass, moss, animal fur, and sometimes nothing at all. In those moments, water became the answer. Rivers, streams, and lakes were used not just for drinking, but for cleaning. This worked, but it came with danger. Dirty water spread disease. Parasites entered the body. Still, people preferred that risk over the alternative. Over time, different cultures developed their own habits. What worked in one land failed in another. And without knowing it, humans were slowly shaping the future of hygiene. Every choice mattered. Every mistake taught a lesson. And every generation passed its knowledge forward. But then came cities. Crowded cities, with narrow streets, shared spaces, and no privacy. Suddenly, the old methods stopped working. Leaves weren't practical. Rivers were polluted. Disease spread faster than ever. And humanity faced a new question. How do you stay clean when nature is no longer close? That question would lead to some of the strangest, most shocking solutions in history. And in the next part, you'll discover what people used when leaves and water were no longer enough. Trust me, some of those methods will change how you look at toilet paper forever. For a long time, nature solved the problem. Leaves, water, grass. Simple. But history changed when humans stopped living alone, when villages turned into towns, and towns turned into cities. Crowds brought trade. Trade brought wealth, and wealth brought one dangerous thing: density. Thousands of people living close together, no forests nearby, no clean rivers, no private spaces, and suddenly, old solutions stopped working. In the ancient world, cities were loud, dirty, and crowded. Waste filled the streets. Animals roamed freely. Water was reused again and again. And people still had to clean themselves somehow. So they improvised. In ancient port cities, where ships arrived daily, people noticed something interesting. Sailors used rope fibers to clean tools. Those fibers were rough, but effective. Soon, similar fibers were used for personal cleaning. Painful? Yes. Better than nothing? Also yes. In farming societies, corn became a common crop. And when the kernels were removed, the cob remained, rough, firm, disposable. Corn cobs became a silent tool in daily life, used once, then thrown away. Not discussed, not celebrated, just accepted.
But not everyone had access to crops, or land, or even privacy. So cities invented shared solutions. In ancient Rome, public toilets were common. Long stone benches, holes cut into them, no walls between people, no doors, no privacy. And below, running water carried waste away. But the real surprise was beside those benches. A stick with a sponge tied to the end. This sponge was placed in salt water between uses and shared. Person after person, the same sponge. Today, this sounds horrifying, but at the time, it was considered organized, even advanced. People believed salt water cleaned it. They didn't know about bacteria. They only knew it worked better than stone. Yes, stone was also used. Smooth stones were chosen carefully. Too sharp meant injury, too rough meant pain. But desperation doesn't care about comfort, it only cares about survival. In coastal areas, shells were common. Flat, hard, cold, used quickly, then discarded. In colder regions, snow replaced water. Ice replaced leaves. Cold, painful, but available. In deserts, sand was used. Dry, absorbing, harsh, but it worked. Every culture adapted to its environment. No one method ruled the world. There was no standard, no product, no brand, just habits passed quietly from parent to child. Never written down, never spoken about openly, because this was not polite history. This was survival history. But as populations grew, these methods began to fail. Disease spread faster, infections increased, and something became clear. Humanity needed a cleaner solution, a softer one, a safer one. And surprisingly, the answer would not come from luxury. It would come from something humble, something thin, something fragile, something we now take for granted. In the next part, you'll discover how a simple material changed hygiene forever, and why it took thousands of years for humans to finally get it right.
For thousands of years, humans accepted discomfort. They accepted pain. They accepted embarrassment. Not because they wanted to, but because they believed there was no better way. Stones were harsh. Sponges were shared. Leaves were unreliable. Water was dangerous. Cleanliness depended on geography, luck, and silence. But then, something quietly revolutionary happened. Not in Rome, not in Europe. Far away in the East, a different idea was forming. In ancient China, paper was already changing the world. At first, paper wasn't for books. It was too valuable for that. It was used for wrapping objects, for packaging, for rituals. And slowly, someone noticed something unusual. Paper was soft, absorbent, disposable, and, most importantly, private. This mattered more than comfort. Privacy was power. It meant dignity. It meant control over one's body. Unlike stones or shared tools, paper belonged to one person for one moment, and then it was gone. No washing, no sharing, no passing it on. At first, paper was used only for the wealthy, royal families, nobles, the elite. Ordinary people still relied on older methods. But once an idea exists, it never stays small. Paper spread, production improved, costs dropped, and slowly, quietly, paper became part of daily hygiene. No announcements were made, no celebrations held. It wasn't considered an invention worth praising, because history often ignores the things we don't like to talk about. But this change mattered more than people realized. Paper reduced skin infections, reduced the spread of disease, reduced shared contact. It created a barrier between waste and the human body, something no leaf or sponge ever did. For the first time, cleanliness became consistent, predictable, personal. But even then, paper hygiene remained regional. The rest of the world didn't know, or didn't care.
In Europe, habits stayed the same. Public toilets remained public. Shared tools remained shared. Cities grew dirtier. Diseases spread faster. Plagues followed trade routes. People blamed bad air, angry gods, cursed cities. No one suspected that the solution wasn't in medicine, but in hygiene, in something as simple as what happens after the body is done. Paper existed, but the idea hadn't crossed cultures yet. And without mass production, it couldn't. That would take time, centuries, and something else. Industry, machines, factories. Because once paper could be made cheaply, quickly, and in massive quantities, everything would change. Not just bathrooms, but health, life expectancy, dignity, and daily comfort. In the final part of this story, you'll see how a quiet idea became a global habit, why it took so long, and how one ordinary product reshaped modern life without anyone noticing.
For most of human history, cleanliness was a personal struggle, a private problem, something people solved quietly, imperfectly, and often painfully. But in the modern world, that struggle almost disappeared, and most people never stopped to ask why. The real transformation didn't come from kings or philosophers. It came from machines. In the 19th century, the world changed faster than ever before. Cities exploded in size, factories replaced villages, millions of people lived side by side, and suddenly old hygiene habits became dangerous. Shared tools spread disease, dirty streets bred infection, hospitals filled, doctors searched for cures. But once again, the answer wasn't only medicine, it was prevention. Paper production had become cheap, fast, reliable, and someone finally connected the idea. If paper could be made in large rolls, soft, thin, and disposable, it could solve a problem humans had struggled with for thousands of years. The first modern toilet paper was rough, very rough, nothing like today, but it worked. And more importantly, it was personal. One use, one person, no sharing, no washing, no passing bacteria to the next body. As factories improved, so did the product. Paper became softer, stronger, cleaner. Packaging made it private, affordable, available to everyone. For the first time in history, hygiene became equal. Not a luxury, not a secret, but a standard. The impact was enormous. Skin infections dropped, intestinal diseases slowed, hospitals noticed fewer complications, life expectancy quietly increased. And no one threw a parade for it, because toilet paper wasn't glamorous, it wasn't heroic, it didn't look important, yet it saved lives, millions of them. It protected dignity, privacy, and something even deeper, human comfort. Think about that, a product so ordinary that we panic when it's missing, yet we almost never thank it for what it replaced. Stones, shared sponges, sand, leaves, pain, embarrassment, disease. History is full of loud inventions, weapons, machines, monuments, but the most powerful changes often happen silently, in bathrooms, behind closed doors. Every time you reach for a roll, you are holding the results of thousands of years of trial, error, and human adaptation. A reminder that progress isn't always about speed. Sometimes it's about comfort, health, and dignity. If this story changed the way you see everyday life, make sure to like the video, share it with someone who loves hidden history, and comment below, which everyday object should we explore next? And don't forget to subscribe for more cinematic stories about the inventions that quietly shaped the world.